If you are searching for a home care assistance for your loved one, have you considered hiring somewhere near his or her age? Well, Seniors Helping Seniors does just that. They match more active seniors with less active seniors, creating mutually beneficial and enriching relationships. Seniors Helping Seniors is a premium home care agency with locations throughout the U.S. Now, joining us today is Elle Williamson. She's the Vice President of Operations at Seniors Helping Seniors here in the Bethesda, Maryland area. Elle is both a registered nurse and an accredited aging life care manager. She uses her psychiatric nursing background and care manager experience to provide guidance and expertise to caregivers and families. Seniors Helping Seniors offer mature and sophisticated caregivers to provide high-level companionship alongside high-quality care. They look and feel like friends while supporting, engaging, and empowering clients, your loved ones, as well as being trusted resources for families. Elle, thank you so much for joining us. Now, the first thing I got to know out of curiosity and as a former caregiver myself is how was Seniors Helping Seniors conceptualized?
Yeah, because it is a really unique concept. Seniors Helping Seniors is actually a franchise. We've been around for over 20 years, all throughout the country. It was actually co-founded by someone who had spent a lot of time helping Mother Teresa, spent many years doing that. So her, desire was to come up with a way that seniors can help one another, share experiences, bond, and empower one another. So a really beautiful concept. And we just happen to be in the Montgomery County and DC area and called Seniors Helping Seniors Bethesda. There's many territories out there, but that's ours.
Wonderful. So, like you mentioned, what you guys are doing is very different. It's like definitely your own brand by hiring seniors to help seniors.
Mhm.
What are the benefits of your program that sets you apart from all the other home care agencies?
Yeah. So there's so many benefits. I could brag about our caregivers endlessly and probably embarrass them. But when someone thinks of home care, they might envision a caregiver coming to support a client in their home, in various ways. They might help them to make a meal, help them to get ready, assist them in running errands and getting to appointments and providing medication reminders. And that's all accurate. We do all of that. But this is how we're different. We hire caregivers who are, yes, more mature, sophisticated, and much of the time they are seniors themselves. So we hire 40s and above. And our caregivers are accomplished and professionals. So they have been, or maybe they still are, nurses, teachers, professors, researchers, journalists, lobbyists. I could go on and on. So they're fairly impressive people. They have impeccable interpersonal and social skills. They can read a room and they have very big hearts. They find purpose in this and they really enjoy it. And because they're more mature, the clients can view them as more of a friend, more of a peer. And this can really overcome a lot of resistance or hesitation with accepting outside help.
Mm.
Yes, I could go on and on about our caregivers and the high level companionship that they're able to provide. And we do spend a lot of time getting to know our caregivers and clients, and we consider ourselves matchmakers. So we really like to make a great match. What occurs after that, I have some great stories I'm excited to share, but I will let you speak now.
So, I actually, when you mentioned matchmaker, the first thing that comes to my mind, because I took care of my dad, he had
Mhm.
Alzheimer's, but
Mhm.
it would have been awesome to have had a caregiver come in who was also a vet, because, or maybe someone who had a trucking business, because those were the two topics my dad loved to talk about. But of course, not one of his caregivers who came
No.
in could relate to that topic. So
Yeah.
please share some stories that would align with, I guess you could say, the having something in common that really helped
Yes.
that family member.
And have I got stories for you, Sunita? Watch out. Yeah, there are some really beautiful stories that I'm going to share. Our caregivers enrich the lives of our clients far beyond what is typical. Like I said, they find meaning in this. They really enjoy it genuinely. And the matches we make allows just for the most beautiful experiences, and the families get to see this. And one of the benefits is that families have a great deal of peace of mind and contentment, knowing that we're caring for their loved one. So yeah, one of the things we look at is interests and hobbies. And sometimes that can be a little tough. It sounds like your father had really specific interests, but we want to know that, and so that we can match the client with a caregiver that has a common background and interests. We find that the relationship develops very organically, very smoothly that way. So yeah, let me tell you about one story. We have a great client. He has Parkinson's, and he loves to play billiards. He loves cars, things like that. So we have matched him with a caregiver who liked similar things. So they pal around, they play billiards together. And what we didn't know was that this client had an old sports car in the garage, untouched, wasn't running anymore. We didn't know about this, but we had matched him with a caregiver who happens to be a private pilot. And therefore, he is mechanically inclined. And together, they started fixing up this old sports car until it was running again. And now they take drives together. The client's wife joins in. It's the most, heartwarming
Mhm.
thought to think of these two driving around in this sports car, and they both enjoyed it and got so much out of it. So it's like we could never have planned this, Sunita. It's just almost synergy. And I can also think of another pair we have, client and caregiver. They both really like golf. And we have an activity directory, by the way. And it includes events and seasonal festivals and activities, dining, shopping in the area. And we offer this to the clients so caregivers can get the client out into the community and enjoy themselves. So we have various golf courses in this activity directory, and we have one client who would always go golfing with our caregiver. They both really enjoyed it. But last summer it was getting so hot. And I'm not a golf person, okay, but I'm pretty sure that when it's like nearing 100 degrees, we don't golf, right? So the client, caregiver, family said, no golfing today. And she was really disappointed. So our caregiver said, hold on, wait a second. Did a little research on his phone and found this indoor golfing. I think it's called Top Golf. We added that to the activity directory. It's like climate controlled, and there's snacks, and they just had a ball. So it really just demonstrated his commitment and resourcefulness and creativity. He still wanted to provide that outlet for the client, and that experience to bond over and enjoy. So yeah, I have so many stories like that. It's just, yeah, very
I
heartwarming.
don't think I've heard of any home care agency. I mean, I recall looking at the list of what our home care people would
Mhm.
provide, and I don't recall anything related to fun activities. Like they would help, feed them, clean up a little bit, I guess errands if I wanted that,
Mhm.
prescriptions or whatever. But I don't recall maybe take them for a walk but nothing that's
Oh,
more fulfilling. Maybe they do it, but I kind of don't think that they do. So I love that layer of, I guess you could say, creativity that you guys have that's available that I don't think
yeah.
anybody else has.
Yeah, thank you. It's the engagement, the companionship. We specialize in that. We hire for that. So that's why I have so many great stories because our caregivers are so invested.
Mhm.
They really are dedicated to creating these moments and quality of life and well-being for the client.
So do you find because they're not necessarily long-term home caregivers that they may have had other careers beforehand and this is like now the next stage in their life and it's more purpose filled that they give and do more because I did have some caregivers who although I had very little for them to do they preferred to just stay on their phone or watch TV and that was it. Do you find that there is more care and more I don't know
Yeah.
what the word is I'm looking for.
Yeah, our caregivers have really unique skill sets. And yes, they've enjoyed their career, or maybe they're still in their career. But they love working with this clientele. And yeah, maybe they've had some experience with their own family members that kind of sent them in this direction. Or, maybe they are retired therapists or nurses and, social workers, and they really are, they are really gifted when working with those who need, a little extra help and support. So, of course, our caregivers are experienced in their own ways, personally and professionally. They're vetted and trained, of course, with us. And yes, they just have that passion to work with this clientele.
Wonderful. And I'm guessing, of course, you do the background check and all of that as well.
Yes, yes, Anita, of course. Yes, background check and references. And yes, our hiring process is pretty lengthy. So,
Yeah. Okay. You have to ask. I mean, I kept everything locked up that was important anyway. So I was like, background check
yeah.
or not, I you got to wisdom. You got to use wisdom, common sense.
Yeah, we absolutely do. Our caregivers are extremely trustworthy and they, usually become very close with the clients. They develop that relationship. It's a consistent schedule. So the client gets to see the same caregiver or caregivers if, the schedule is, quite expansive. And so there is that level of trust. Absolutely.
I love that. And I kind of get the feeling that because the caregivers are similar to age, that your loved one might share more with them that would be insightful or information that's needed for the family.
Exactly. Yes. Great points. Yeah. So the families can trust our caregivers. Our caregivers can be their eyes and ears. They can be a very insightful, as you said, resource for families. And, we're all so busy schedules, children, grandchildren, travel. We all need a little respite. Spouses need time to themselves. Families are so busy. They can't be as present. So they know that our caregivers are there. And, they know that for their loved one, the caregiver feels more like a friend, a companion. So a great deal of, yes, peace of mind and also respite for the families.
Okay,
And oh, go ahead.
go on, go on.
I was just going to say, this reminds me that just last year, we had a caregiver be included in the family holiday photo that, turned into a holiday card. It was sent out to, family and friends, and we got one. So we absolutely loved it because, yes, this caregiver is incredible. And they really kind of look at her as a member of the family, included her in the holiday photo. So
Mhm.
sweet.
I love it.
um,
So
mhm,
so you would say the primary benefits are uh, building a relationship,
mhm.
quality care. Help me.
Yes, the very high level companionship, that peace of mind for the family. And we go above and beyond. Our caregivers have so many skills and they're talented, and they want to give. They want to help and support. So, like I said, when you envision home care, you might think of someone coming by, helping to make a meal, helping the client to get ready, and maybe helping them, do some chores.
Yeah.
But our caregivers, because of their age, which is an asset, and their experience and how sophisticated they are able to assist with more complex life administration tasks. Say, the client would like, or maybe the family would like the caregiver to take notes during a doctor's appointment. We can do that. Maybe the client needs help going through mail and paperwork, assistance with technology. We can do all of that. And even, we have helped a number of clients while they are in an assisted living facility, or if the plan is to transition the client to an assisted living facility. We've had caregivers help with that entire process, organizing the house, packing, which is very time consuming.
Yes.
Yes. And, taking the clients to maybe, the bank or the post office to change their address, and just kind of taking care of all of that labor, really, and doing it in a way that's, very low stress for the client and family. And it's kind of amazing to have a friendly, familiar face when transitioning to a new environment. It can be very disorienting, can be very stressful on the client. So having a caregiver there from start to finish, helping them move to an assisted living, getting acclimated, getting introduced to, new friends, thriving in the new environment, taking part in these new activities, having a caregiver there to kind of facilitate all of that makes a huge difference and helps the family out so much. And we hear all these stories, about how well it's going and how the client was able to, make a new friend or, realize that they enjoyed, some game or activity, and they're going to start doing that every week now, instead of hiding out in the room. It's incredible. Our caregivers have helped hang family photos in the new living quarters and making sure that the client had, all their favorite snacks in their new kitchenette. So really start to finish having that support, that companion has been huge. And to see that, I am always so impressed with our caregivers.
So, have you found, because I'm sure this happens quite often, the
Mhm.
family member who is very cranky and I don't need help, I don't need anyone to come in my home, et cetera, et cetera? Any of our audience members dealt with that? Have you found
Mm.
that because your caregivers are near their age, that softens a bit because they're introduced
Yeah,
more as a friend rather than a nurse or a helper?
absolutely. So yeah, sometimes there's, a little resistance or a lot of resistance. And, especially with clients who maybe have some dementia or cognitive impairment, there can be some denial there, and it's really hard for them to accept help. And actually, our caregivers are sometimes introduced as a family friend or a neighbor. This is kind of a workaround. This can be very helpful, very successful, because, many of our clients, they struggle with executive functioning. They struggle with their memory, and we can really navigate that, with being able to keep their dignity intact,
Yeah, yeah.
being able to preserve the relationship. We have a lot of tips and tricks. We have a lot of strategies. Many of our caregivers have worked with dementia a great deal. And we also have a certification, dementia training that's approved by the Alzheimer's Association. So our caregivers can utilize all of that, all of that experience and training to be very tactful, very clever. um, we had a client who never remembered the caregiver, never knew who he was. But the caregiver was able to take time and get to know this client each visit. And the caregiver had found out that this client loves a good hot cup of coffee from the cafe down the street. So every single visit, the caregiver would pop in, grab a cup of coffee,
Mm.
and then go to the client's home, knock on the door with his coffee in hand. And it was just such a great way to initiate that visit. And it always went well. It always worked, Sunita.
Love it. That
So we stuck with
special
it.
touch.
We
Wow.
stuck with that.
Awesome.
Um,
And with them being
yeah.
trained in dementia, they can give
Mhm.
tips and advice to family members.
Yes, and we can as well. Absolutely. It's really hard to navigate that. And like I said, it's really important to keep that relationship and their dignity intact. So, there's a lot of strategies out there, and our caregivers are able to use them. And yes, absolutely share them. And this is also when matchmaking can come into play. We will only match a client with dementia with a caregiver who has that experience and training.
Mm.
And also, we look at all the other, like I said, personality, interests, hobbies, and we make sure to make that match so that when they do meet and the relationship forms, there is a bonding there. And, one thing that comes to mind is we had matched a client and caregiver. They were both speech therapists. So this client really enjoyed her career, was a retired speech therapist. And when she realized that the caregiver was also a speech therapist, they were able to share so many stories and
Yeah.
experiences, and they had the same lingo. And, the client was able to reminisce all about her career, which was really one of the highlights of her life.
Mm.
This actually, brought tears to the daughter's eyes to see that go so smoothly. Because yeah, we really have to put a lot of thought into our clients with dementia that may have that resistance, may have those walls, and are a bit guarded. So, and like I said, introducing them as maybe a family friend or neighbor can
Yeah.
really go a long way too. And we absolutely use that from time to time.
And the other thing that just hit me when you were talking is we have a couple of 90-year-olds in our family, and one
Mhm.
of the main things that they find discouraging is that most of their family members their age, or their brother and their sister, or their friends their age are all gone.
Yeah, that's exactly what we see too. We have some clients who are approaching 100 years old. So yes, they have lost and are still losing some
So this fill that
important,
gap.
really important people. Yeah, and are still grieving at times.
Yeah.
So yes, our caregivers are very sensitive to that, and they will listen to those stories and look at all those photos and really help the client to, explore those feelings and that grief.
Yeah.
But then also offer them, an activity or a walk or an outing, to bring that joy and yeah, a little distraction to when they need it.
Yeah, and if your loved one loves music and they have a caregiver near their age, somewhere in
Mhm.
there, they might have the same kind of, musical interest. What I mean? That
Exactly.
makes a huge difference. Those talking about maybe things that happened back in their time in the news or whatever
Yeah.
the atmosphere, to old TV shows that they may be familiar
Hmm.
with that I wouldn't know. But those type of things I think will bring back the light in your family members' eyes.
Exactly. So they can kind of relive it and enjoy it together. Yeah, you and I might not totally get it, but
Mm-hmm.
they do. And that's the important thing. So, yeah, we really want to get to know our clients and also caregivers. So when we make this match, things like that occur.
Do you have any clinical support for the loved ones whose health has declined?
Yes. So we offer clinical support. We have nurses. I'm a registered nurse myself. So if their care needs escalate, if maybe there's a hospitalization, if there maybe is a hands-on personal care component that's needed, a nurse will assess and there will be nurse oversight. Because, yeah, we want to make sure that we are providing an appropriate level of care.
Perfect. And how would a potential client reach you? First, cover the people in Maryland, and
Mhm.
then those who are outside of the Maryland area, how would they find a location near them?
Yeah, okay, great. So you can call us at 301-895-0205. You can look at our website and reach us through the website. It's shsbethesda.com. That makes sense, right? Seniors Helping Seniors, shsbethesda.com. And if you wanted to find Seniors Helping Seniors in a different territory, yeah, go ahead and Google Seniors Helping Seniors and put in that state or zip code. And you should be taken to another website for a Seniors Helping Seniors in with that territory. There's a lot of us out there, so you might have to comb through, but go ahead and Google.
Perfect. And I didn't ask. I know the hourly range here in the
Mhm.
area, I think it's like 20 to 30 something. Can you give us a
Mhm.
range? And maybe that would they speak to you guys with is it a free consultation? Is it a paid
Mhm.
consultation? Is there insurance that's covered? Like you guys would give people that information?
Yeah, so when a client or family member calls in, we're going to get a lot of information from them. We'd like to know what sort of care and companionship they need. Is there a personal care component? If so, there needs to be some nurse oversight and a nurse assessment. And also the schedule, how many hours that, plays a part as well. And yes, there is a home visit or a home assessment. It could be someone from the team, it could be specifically a nurse if needed. And gathering all of this information and an in-person component, we would be able to find that rate for you. So it is a little difficult to say, just kind of generalize, but you are correct with the rates in that area. We're a premium home care agency. So I know you mentioned 20s to 30s. We're going to be a little bit on the upper end of that scale. Just to be, perfectly honest, we we're really proud of our caregivers. We have a lot to give. And so, we know that what we provide is really worth it. But we're happy to work through all of that with the client and the family. And yes, typically our families and clients pay through private pay. We also work with long-term care insurance, which is a real pain for families and clients. We're happy to help navigate long-term care insurance. And we also work with the ARC program in Montgomery County. So, every client and family are different, and it really just takes a conversation and maybe also meeting with them to really work out those details.
Yeah, and with the extra touch that you provide, that, from my opinion, I haven't heard of at all, it would have been
Mhm.
worth every single penny just to have my dad having someone to talk about the things that he loves and that brightness, added in his life for his last days. It's
Yeah.
well worth every single penny.
Yeah, thank you. We feel the same way. It's beautiful to watch. So it is really something special out there. And that is how Seniors Helping Seniors is very different.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elle, for joining us, and just thank you for doing such a great job in helping our loved ones, our parents, our dads, just moms. It's amazing. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Have a wonderful day.